Hello, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Lauren. And this is I've Got Guts,
a podcast about living and thriving with chronic illness. Let's be real, it is really hard.
but it doesn't have to be. You are not alone.
With this podcast, we want to create a community and a space to be able to talk about the tough stuff
And laugh along the way.
The idea for this podcast stemmed from us trying to find one for ourselves to listen to, but not being able to find anything that didn't make us more sad or frustrated.
Our goal is to talk about the hard stuff, but also talk about how to get through it. Be positive, have a full and productive life, and of course, thrive.
But before we get started, just so we are clear, we are not medical professionals. We are just here sharing our personal experiences.
All right, let's get into it.
Thorns and roses.
Thorns and roses. You start.
Ooh, my thorn is a real annoying one.
It really is. I feel like it was annoying me too for you.
The thorniest thorn that ever thorned.
The biggest old thorn out there.
So I obviously got married this summer, switched insurance over to Anthony's because he had a better insurance. And I went to refill my heartburn medication. And I get a message saying, like, insurance said no. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I call Walgreens up and I'm like, hey, what's the deal here? Like, why are they saying no to my heartburn medicine? And they're like, they want you to try like omeprazole or pantoprazole first.
Oh, please.
I literally said to the girl on the phone of the Walgreens tech, I'm like, oh, hell no, they did not. And she starts laughing. And I just got really upset about it because, like, I have been on this medicine since 2015.
Yeah.
Prior to this medicine, I tried all the prazoles, omeprazole, pantoprazole, lantoprazole, all of them. And rabeprazole was the only one that worked for me. So Anthony ended up calling the insurance company and they were like, oh, yeah, we need a pre-authorization for it now. My issue with the whole thing was there was never we have this patient's history because I did switch insurances, but it's the same like company.
Okay, yeah.
So they have my history.
Right.
I'm 41 years old. I mean, chances are I've been on this medicine,
Right.
especially when they give me the amount that they're giving me. That
Right.
to me is a sign that you've been on the medicine for a long time.
And it's same pharmacy, right? This is the same pharmacy where you always go. So they have the history of you picking this up.
Yep. So I'm frantically messaging my doctor. My doctor did try and send prior authorization, and Walgreens was like, oh no, we don't need that. And so Anthony ended up getting the number. They had to call, and it was a whole process. So by the time we went through all of that, it was almost 2 weeks without my medicine.
Yikes, that is not good.
The worst part of it all is me and you have started taking Olivita internals.
Yeah.
And it's really helped my heartburn. So I've been able to wean myself down from 2 heartburn pills to 1.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, huge deal. But that 2 weeks without any of it, it just came back in a way that was like, it was like having full-fledged GERD all over again. I was suffering and so much pain. It was all that chest pressure and everything like rising in my esophagus.
Do you get like that burning fire?
Yes, like fire burning on the dance floor.
Fire burning.
So it was just really frustrating. And we're knee deep in this fertility journey right now. And I'm supposed to be feeling my best.
Right.
And then all of this happens. And it's just a frustrating situation with insurance. Like insurance, they're not medical professionals.
Right.
What right do they have to say, you don't need this medicine, try something different?
Right.
That's not right.
Right. And it's so frustrating. And here you are. This is your body and you need this one pill to feel good every day. And now you're in a situation where you're behind.
So now I'm back to the 2 pills and I'm going to have to work my way back up to weaning myself down to 1, which is a big, huge pain in my butt. A thorn in my side.
Thorn in your side. That big old thorn.
That's my thorn.
Oh, so frustrating. Well, my thorn actually has to do with flowers.
Okay. Roses and thorns, your thorn has to do with flowers.
There we go. So I, last week, had the privilege of hosting an event at a local florist in Canandaigua. It's called In Bloom's Floral.
It was wonderful.
Design. We hosted it together, and it was just, what a beautiful, beautiful event we had together. And at the end, I ordered a special arrangement of flowers for my mom for Christmas. And if you are local and you live in or you live near Canandaigua, I highly recommend going. Rachel is incredible with what she does. She is so talented. So of course, I order a nice bouquet of flowers for my mom for Christmas. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick it up on at 3:30 when I'm out of school on Friday, right before break. And where I live and where I work, it's about a 40-minute commute. Yep. So I fly out of work on Friday because break is here.
Break is here, but it was also really bad weather.
Yes, the roads were awful. So I'm on the road, I'm driving, I'm like,
You're on the phone with me, actually.
I actually am on the phone with you. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, Rachel's calling me the flowers. I forgot to stop. So I was so frustrated that I forgot this beautiful arrangement of flowers. And it wasn't like a day where I was going to turn around.
No.
And go back because it was already, my brother just got into town
and the
from
roads
Long Island.
were horrific.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm not doing this. So I was really annoyed at myself. And it just shows I need to put more reminders in my phone so I don't forget these things. So that was my thorn this week. So, all right, Rose's room.
Roses. All right. So my rose is, well, first of all, we're teachers. We have 16 days off this year.
I mean, I'm just out of my mind right now. I can't stop smiling.
I know. It's like the best feeling in the whole entire world.
I mean, we love our job and we love our kids, but the break is so necessary for everyone involved. Teachers, students.
Yes.
Sorry, parents.
I know. I'm sorry, but we need it. And then we got to spend our first Christmas as a married couple. I
love that so much.
And it was so nice. We hosted Christmas Eve here with both of our families came, and I just did a spread of appetizers, and we just hung out and enjoyed each other's company. And then Christmas Day, we got to go see our niece open her Santa presents in the morning.
And how old is she? A year?
She will be two at the end of January.
Oh, what a fun age to watch the magic.
Yes, it was so cute. She actually calls both of us Aunt because he's Uncle Anthony and I'm Aunt Stephanie.
Oh, so she's just calling you Aunt.
Aunt and Aunt. We're both Aunt. But it was just cute to see her little reaction. She's like, what's this? What's that? I just loved interacting with her.
Oh, and you did have quite a moment. You posted the most adorable picture of Anthony on the guitar.
Yeah, so we got her guitar for Christmas.
Okay, is that why?
Yes.
I love
so
that.
So Anthony got his guitar out and they were playing the guitar together. And I was like, okay, heartstrings, just keep chugging here.
Oh, I love it. So special.
Yeah. And then we also got to spend Christmas dinner with my dad and my mom and my stepmom and my stepsister yesterday. And it was just really nice.
I love it. I love it. Well, my rose is, you had a first. I had a first. This is the first Christmas in our new house. We moved in last January of 2020. What are we in now? 2024, January. We moved in. So we're just coming up on a year. It was the first holiday to celebrate in our new house. It was just so special. It really was. We had my parents over. My brother came to visit from Long Island. And it was just an overall great, great couple of days. So feeling good. Feeling good.
Yeah. All right, Room. So you still have some stories to get us through.
Yeah, I know. This is so funny. I feel like I have so much more to talk about just because I have all of these little bite-sized things that have happened over the years, chronic illness-wise, autoimmune diseases specifically. So, and I think it was just such a chain reaction. So when I was writing notes, I'm like, I still have all these things to share I didn't get to yet.
Yeah, so start us off here. What's going on next in your story?
All right. Well, before I get into my next hospital stay, because that's what we're going to start with,
of course.
I wanted to talk about positivity. And I feel like this came up because you and I were talking about it and some listeners too. We've gotten some feedback. And I think a lot of you may feel like I'm full of positivity and I'm very upbeat. And it may appear that way. And I want all of you to know that I do ride the roller coaster of emotions too. And honestly, it's just a matter of how I soothe myself and just be kind to myself when those negative emotions come up, when I'm in those dark times. And I'm going to introduce you to a little pal of mine. He's called the Emotional Guidance Scale. And I actually printed an article about it. And it is a really helpful tool for lifting ourselves out of like those lower moments, those negative moments, those lower vibrations. And it is basically a list of commonly felt emotions. And we can share this visual so you guys can see there's 22 different emotions on it. And they range from joy, appreciation, freedom, love, and empowerment, which is like the highest. And then the lowest is that fear, despair, desperation, grief, powerlessness. So that's on the lower end. So when you want to feel better, you can identify where you are on the emotional scale and kind of proactively reach for a better feeling thought that can lead to better feeling emotions. So once you're stable in a new emotion, you've moved up the scale, and then you continue the practice of reaching for that better feeling thought, over time. And when you're in a negative place, which I feel like we've been there many times, high vibe thoughts just won't resonate. And sometimes they just feel false, where you're trying to be positive or say positive things. And it's just like, this doesn't feel authentic. You're not ready to go there yet. Right, exactly. So instead of trying to leap, we have to like gently guide ourselves back to joy and feeling happy by taking like one little small step at a time. I feel like I visualize it as like little bite-sized like steps. But what about when we're really, really like dark? Like I think about those times where you were days and days and days in a row on the bathroom floor, like vomiting, having diarrhea. You barely you're like lifeless, right? Yep. It's those really dark moments that when we feel like really desperate and really powerless, where it's not smart to try to like leap up that scale as fast as possible. And if you've ever tried to force yourself to feel happy when you're far from it, then you know how hard it is. It just feels fake. So one of the fastest ways that I kind of utilize this emotional guidance scale is I find myself on it and I'm like, okay, here I am. I just want to go up one. I just want to go up one spot. And the way I do it is I do something that like makes me feel good. I do something fun. And for me, it could be going out for a run. It could be exercising. But if I'm in a really bad health spot, it may just be putting on a funny show that's going to make me laugh. Like, I feel like I always go back to Seinfeld or Friends when I need like a good pick-me-up. Do you have like a show that always makes you laugh? I feel like Seinfeld and Friends are always the ones that bring me back to like that really good laughter, because when you're laughing, you're just emitting that energy and you're just almost taking your mind away from all the other stuff. Do you have one?
I don't know that I have a show that I specifically go to. I definitely have movies, like especially like in the holiday season. I know like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, it'll pull me out of a rough spot no matter where I am. Certain things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or even just other things that you love to do, like cooking or
cooking for me always pulls me out.
Right, exactly. Or just listening to music or listening to your husband strum on the guitar.
Oh, that's a good one. That always makes me happy.
So you can and you will move up the scale by focusing on something other than what's upsetting you. And it doesn't mean that you're like ignoring the difficult emotions or checking out of tough situations. In fact, it's actually the opposite. When you're moving up that emotional scale, you can more easily attract that support, those solutions, those creative ideas that you need, to solve your problems or to move forward.
Right now, Rena is feeling powerlessness because she can't be in here recording with us.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like we've got to do a nice little, we need to give everybody a visual of what Rena actually looks like. Sweet little thing out there crying. She's like, I'm actually low on the emotional guidance scale right now.
Oh my gosh.
So that is just something that I use to kind of help navigate those low points.
Yeah. And I want to point out too, like if you have a child with a chronic illness, as teachers, something we use in schools is called the zones of regulation.
Yes.
And it's so similar. Yeah. And I think that's something you can use with kids and to teach them it's okay to feel the different feelings. And if you're in the red zone, which is like the worst one, where you're feeling angry and out of control and you have no control of your body, if we could just get you from the red zone, even to the yellow zone where you're feeling frustrated, that's a step
It
in
is.
the right direction. And eventually, so if you can, as an adult, you can use this, but if you have a child with a chronic illness, the zones of regulation is like a parallel almost.
Yes, it is. Even when I was telling you about it, Room's like, wait a second, this is what we use in school. I'm like, oh my goodness, you're so right. It's like the adult form.
Yeah, it is so, and it is so true. It is a skill that I think it's wonderful to teach kids, and then that's a skill you build on throughout your whole life. And it's a tool you have in your pocket to use when you need it.
Yeah, and it almost just, I think it's a way to soothe ourselves. Like, I feel like when I look at the scale, like anger, for example, number 17 on the scale out of 22, right? That's down there. I don't need to go from anger all the way up to like optimism. I just need to get to disappointment, I just need to shift, right?
Yeah.
I just need to do a shift. So it's just identifying where you are on there, honoring those feelings, letting yourself feel it, and then be easy on yourself and do that little bite-sized jump up. So that is something which I feel like I use all the time and just helps me admit that it seems like I'm always this positive, upbeat, happy person, which I am, but there are steps to get me there. Yes. And I for sure feel those low, dark moments, as you know, Rome. So all right. So speaking of low, dark moments, here we go. Let's turn back time. I kind of want to sing the song, but I have a really bad voice.
Yeah, I can't mimic Cher. I've looked like Cher. I've dressed up like Cher, but no one can sing like Cher.
We don't need to crack any windows in your car as you're listening to this. So we're going to go back in time to May 2019. And this hospital stay that I had was right around Mother's Day. And for weeks leading up to this ER visit, I was having symptoms or just feelings of extreme fatigue. And I work full time, run a business at night. At that point, I had a toddler at home. I just thought it was normal to be feeling this like exhausted, drained feeling all the time. Until one morning, I woke up feeling like literally my entire body was just tingling and aching. Like, when you get the flu and you get that ache in your joints and your muscles, so much so that I felt like I just had this weight on me that I couldn't get out of bed. I was also nauseous. And of course, I was having chest pain again. So I went to my primary care and she ran some blood work and my CRP levels were 250. And CRP stands for C-reactive protein, and a high C-reactive protein level in a blood test can indicate the presence of inflammation in the body and is often seen in people with autoimmune diseases, which I have. And it's as the body's immune system is kind of attacking its own tissues, it's causing this chronic inflammation. So high CRP levels can be a marker for an active autoimmune condition like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, or inflammatory bowel disease. A normal, just to give you guys perspective, like a normal CRP range is 0 to 10. I was at 250.
That's insane.
Right? Like, alert, alert. So to the hospital they sent me. And once there, they ran blood work and admitted me. And I was diagnosed with pericarditis again because when they did the echocardiogram and the whole little thing they do on your heart, they gave me that diagnosis, which was why I was having chest pain. But more was going on this time. They were actually really concerned. My CRP levels weren't this high in the past when I had pericarditis. And also my ANA numbers in my blood work were also abnormal. And that stands for anti-nuclear antibodies, which can attack the body's own tissues. And a positive or abnormal ANA test result is not like definitive, but it can indicate the presence of an autoimmune. So they're thinking, okay, my ANA was positive. I also had low white blood cell count. And they just knew something more was going on. It was a matter of teasing out, is this currently from one of my autoimmune diseases that I have or something new going on? And they can't let you leave. They had to admit me. And Mother's Day is literally 2 days away. And I just remember laying in that hospital bed feeling devastated. They won't let me leave. And all I wanted to be is there with Connor, At this point, he was still so little. And I don't know how much he remembers of all of this because he was, I think 4 at the time. But still, it was just crushing my heart to be laying there feeling broken, feeling like I just want to get out. And it goes back to the unknown. So every day I was there, they were giving me steroids through IV and other meds, and they were checking my blood levels daily, and it was going down. It went from like 250 to 200, and then the next day it was like 150. So they were getting down, but in those moments, let me tell you, I was all over that emotional guidance scale. The anger and frustration that I felt with my body, with myself, was just at a whole nother level because it wasn't just impacting me. It was impacting Connor.
Yep.
And it breaks my heart. So
once you're a mom, you don't mess with your kid.
No, you don't. And I'm like, body, you are going to get it together. And you know me, when I get something in my mind, I'm going to get it done. And I was getting out of there for Mother's Day. So they were checking my numbers. They were going down. And once my levels were back low enough, it was, I want to say it was around 30. I was begging them. Like, remember, 0 to 10 is normal. I'm like, please let me go. Like, I have to be there for Connor. And they let me go.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember this room. This is the year we went to the Mother's Day buffet at that restaurant.
I was gonna say, we went to the most wonderful Mother's Day brunch ever.
Yes, and that's all I could think of. I feel like I made the reservations and I organized the whole thing. I'm like, I cannot be in the hospital for this. So I did feel not the best. I felt like death. It was so hard just sitting there moving around because I still felt those feelings of just like fatigue and achiness. Yes. It was just not the best, but I was there. I got what I wanted, and that's all that mattered because I wouldn't let him down. Nope. I will never let him down. But after that, I was then referred to a rheumatologist. And the question was, and I haven't had a rheumatologist up to this point.
Right.
This was new
your
for
first.
me. Right. So the question was, is my ANA abnormal because of my current existing autoimmune diseases, or was it new? The recurrent pericarditis and chest pain was like really concerning to them. I think this maybe was my third or fourth time with it, with pericarditis. I also have Raynaud's. I don't think I've talked about that. It's a simple one. It's a condition that causes your blood vessels in your fingers and toes to narrow excessively in response to like cold weather or stress. Yep. And then you can get like numbness in your fingertips. Like mine will legit go blue and white. It's like terrible.
I've seen your hands before.
I know.
It's
I'm like,
scary looking.
It is. And it can last like minutes or it can last hours. So that is why I always have like hot hands.
Yes.
It's hot hands. And I also got hot feet too.
I know,
I'll put them right in my
amazing.
boot. Especially when I'm at the hockey rink with Connor playing so much hockey these days. I always have to stay as warm as possible. But my rheumatologist that they sent me to was amazing and just so thorough, which was so refreshing. And she, looking at all of my blood work, just my history, she was believing I was, or possibly showing early signs of lupus. And for those of you who don't know what lupus is, it's a disease that occurs when your body's immune system attacks your own tissue and organs. And inflammation caused by lupus can affect different body systems. So it could affect your joints or your skin or your kidneys, your brain, your heart, just so many things. And it can be very difficult to diagnose because its signs and symptoms often mimic those of other ailments. So here we are, this puzzle I am, even when I was in the hospital those couple of days. So the most distinctive sign of lupus is a facial rash that like looks like wings of a butterfly across like your cheek. And that can occur in many, but not all cases of lupus. So I did not have the rash at all. I did have the recurrent pericarditis, Raynaud's, unexplained high levels of inflammation. I had the fatigue, chronic migraines, joint muscle pain. So I had all these things that were checking the boxes. So was it lupus? We weren't sure. And, diagnosing lupus is very difficult because symptoms can vary considerably from person to person. So if you're listening to this and you have lupus, or you know someone who does, you know that these symptoms can really range depending on everybody because everybody's different. And they also can change over time. They can overlap. And then you could go in remission, and you can get out of that flare and things could be quiet. So there's also not like one specific test that can say, here's this test, you have lupus. It's not like that. So it's just a lot of things to figure it out. So that all being said, I still to this day never have gotten a formal diagnosis of lupus. I have my blood work checked every year to check my numbers. And gratefully, I am able to manage these inflammation levels with just different meds. And I did have another hospital stay mixed in there when my CRP levels spiked, and I went to the hospital. They gave me IV steroids. We got it down. But again, not any type of formal diagnosis. The one thing that I did start taking recently since last February, so almost coming up on a year, is I've been doing shots of hydroxytyrosol. And ever since I started that, my blood work has never been better.
Same.
And that's the same thing you were talking about with your heartburn pills, right?
My blood work has not been this good since 2015.
And I feel like you need your blood work looking pristine because you're trying to make a baby right now, right?
Yep.
So for those of you who don't know, hydroxytyrosol is a very potent antioxidant-rich extract, and it comes from the leaves of mountain olive trees. And this olive cell leaf elixir will fight inflammation in every sense of the word. So I highly encourage you to go ahead and Google just hydroxytyrosol because your mind will be blown. It's so wild. It comes from nature. It is in its purest form.
Yes.
It's naturally
It's all
intuitive.
natural.
Yes, and it's naturally intuitive, which means when it gets in your body, it's going to go to where you have inflammation in your body or needs in your body. For you, your esophagus room. For me, my esophagus
stomach,
too.
yep.
Your stomach. So it really is amazing. So go Google it. The benefits are insane.
And if you have questions at the very end of this episode, we will give you ways to contact us. Feel free to reach out to us if you have questions or you want to know more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that was my autoimmune update.
Oh my gosh, all these hospital stays, man. I just remember
many.
like every time I'd get that text from Sean, Lauren's in the hospital. I was like, God, why? Come on.
I know. Actually, I really should just like get my own personal room and parking spot at this point.
In honor of Lauren.
Hey guys, back again.
Oh my God.
But I think the best part about staying in the hospital, if you were to find a light in it all, is I always have incredible nurses and doctors there that are very compassionate, which is wonderful. Right? I know, not room. I got to rub some hospital good vibes on you, especially before you're going to be going to a hospital when you have that baby of yours, right?
Yes.
So.
Well, speaking of not
babies,
great doctor experiences.
Was that not the perfect segue?
So I've been getting some feedback. Everybody's loving that I'm keeping, everyone in the loop about my fertility journey. So I wanted to give a quick update on where we are right now. This was my first medicated IUI cycle. And for those of you who don't know what IUI stands for, it's intrauterine insemination. So basically they wash the semen and they put a catheter right into your uterus and they put the semen in there. So it kind of like gets it to where it needs to be. And I took a trigger shot. So within 24 hours of that, I ovulated. So it's like just making sure the pieces are all coming together.
Like a turbo shot, right up in there.
It was intense too. So this past Saturday, of course, it's the Saturday before Christmas, and you know how I am about Christmas. It was snowing, and something about the snow at Christmas, it brings out this magical feeling in me. Christmas in general brings out a magic feeling in me. So it's Saturday morning. We're up early. I'm watching National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. We left so early because we didn't want to be late, because we had to drive all the way to Syracuse for the procedure because they don't do them at our office here. And
that's what, an hour drive?
An hour and a half.
All right. So, and the weather was bad. It was bad that morning.
It was really bad. So we're both in such good spirits. Christmas music is on in the car. We're talking about our hopes and dreams for the future or whatever. So we get there. They put us in a private room. They collect Anthony's sample. And about an hour after they collect Anthony's sample, they bring me back. So a little backstory. So back in October, I had something called an HSG, which is, I don't remember what it stands for, but basically they're flushing your uterine cavity to make sure there's no fibroids or anything that could prevent you from getting pregnant. So, and I think I might have told this story, the first time we went, it wasn't successful. And it wasn't successful for a lot of reasons. I laid down on the table and they had me hold my own legs. There were no stirrups.
Oh, that's
weird.
weird.
The doctor comes in and again, no introductions, no anything, just sits right down in front of my private parts and is digging around in there it was the largest speculum I've ever seen in my life. If you're a woman, you know what a speculum is. And he is tilting it up, tilting it down. And I'm like, whoo, this hurts. And he just kept saying weird things. Your cervix is weird. What the heck does that mean? And after 5 minutes, he got so frustrated with me. He said, I can't do this. And he's like, come back in a couple of days and we'll do it under anesthesia. So it was a little traumatizing for me.
Yeah.
So leading up to this IUI, I kept asking the nurses, I go, what if my cervix does this for an IUI? Because with an HSG, it was fine to come back 3 days later.
Right.
But with an IUI, you do a trigger shot that forces ovulation.
What's your window? 24 hours?
24 hours. So you have to get it in there. So the nurses were like, you know what, let's book the procedure so that they'll try it without anesthesia, but we'll have you prepped and ready to go for anesthesia if they need it.
Love that. So just being proactive, so you're maximizing your time.
Wasn't my idea. So we get there, I'm in the room. The nurse is so wonderful. She hooks me up and everything. And I'm sitting there and I'm literally like, I'm laying on the table and I'm like, this is going to work. This is going to work. We're going to make a baby today. Like, I'm so happy. And all of a sudden the door like flings open. The doctor comes in. He does not introduce himself. He doesn't ask my name. He doesn't sit down. He goes, this is ridiculous. And I was like, what's ridiculous? He's like, ridiculous. So ridiculous. I've been doing this for 30 years and I have never done an IUI under anesthesia. Never. And he's yelling at me. And he would not let me get a word in edgewise. Like, I was trying to advocate for myself, but he wouldn't let me talk. And I was like, okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Like,
he's like literally yelling at you for a decision that you did not make.
He was red in the face. He was visibly angry. So he leaves the room, storms out of the room. The anesthesiologist comes in and I'm like, sir, I don't know what's going on, but the doctor really feels strongly that I shouldn't do this under, anesthesia. And the anesthesiologist is wonderful. And he tried to comfort me. And he said, there are extenuating circumstances sometimes where people might need something like this. And he gave an example, like maybe if someone has been raped in the past, they might need to do this under anesthesia because it's traumatizing.
Right,
and he said, I'm going to sit outside that door, and if you need me, you yell for me.
Oh, that's
So he was really wonderful. The doctor comes back in, and he's like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to do it without. And I was like, sir, I was under the impression that we were trying it without, and if there was a problem, you would do it under anesthesia.
Yeah.
He's like, that's what I'm doing. And so he sits down, face to face again with my private parts. This is an intimate thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, my husband is not with me.
Right.
I didn't have Anthony's hand to hold. I didn't have him there with me. And so he sits down and he starts telling a story. You ready for the story he told?
Gosh, no.
He goes, so let me tell you the story. Another clinic in another state. So they're doing an IUI and they do it, and then afterwards they tell the woman, I think we inseminated you with the wrong semen.
What?
He goes,
wait. He's telling you this while he's exercising this procedure.
Inserting the speculum and getting the catheter ready.
You gotta be kidding me.
And then he's like, and then she gets pregnant and she sues them and she wins. And he goes, and then turns out, did a DNA test, it was actually her husband's baby. And then he stands up and he goes, okay, procedure's done. Told you that was going to be easy. He goes, good luck with the baby. Hopefully this is a story you could tell, and walks out of the room.
I literally cannot even pick my mouth up off the floor. Are you kidding me right now?
So the nurse came back in and I was like, oh my God. I was like, that was so traumatizing.
Oh, seriously.
And honestly, here's what I can say. This is how the approach could have been better. If he came in and sat on that stool and he was like, hi, my name is Doctor. What's your name? So I read over your file and I'm just a little bit concerned about doing this with anesthesia. And let me tell you why.
Yeah.
I have been doing this for 30 years and I've never needed to do this. And because for me, I've never been through this before. Right. I don't know what's normal and what's not normal. And So I just needed that. You know what I mean? So it was definitely traumatizing, but I think we made the best of it. Like, we went out after, we had a really nice lunch together, and I still am holding the magic inside of me because it's still the holiday season and I'm choosing to not focus on that negative aspect of it. And I'm manifesting that this baby is growing inside of me right now. Yes.
Rome, I'm just so proud of you. Like, that is a traumatic thing to go through during such a special moment. Like, you're making a baby. You're literally like gonna have a life, right? Growing inside of you. And the way he treated you was just not respectful.
Some doctors really don't have bedside manner and they need to learn it.
Right, absolutely. But thankfully,
Yes.
you were able to get it done. And you did have that anesthesiologist sounded amazing.
He was wonderful. And the nurses are wonderful.
Yeah.
So hopefully in a couple of weeks, I'll have some good news for you guys. Fingers crossed. If you're out there and you're listening and you believe in prayer or manifesting, just, we appreciate any prayers or manifesting that you want to send our way for that.
Yeah, we need all the good baby vibes coming this way.
So that was just my fertility journey update. But today, the main thing I want to talk about is something called the spoon theory.
Which I have never heard of until you brought this up to me the other day.
Yes, and I'm intrigued to see how you'll feel after I talk about it.
Yeah.
So the spoon theory is a metaphor that's used to explain the limited energy levels people with chronic illnesses or disabilities experience. So each spoon represents a unit of energy that must be carefully rationed throughout the day, meaning that everyday tasks can quickly deplete their available energy, unlike someone with a seemingly unlimited supply. And it was created by an author. Her name is Christine Miserandino. I hope I said that right. To illustrate the challenges of managing a chronic condition by comparing energy to a finite number of spoons.
Ooh, I love this.
So I did a little research, and according to an article that was written by the Washington Post called Spoon Theory, What It Is and How I Use It to Manage Chronic Illness, spoon theory has become shorthand for chronically ill people to explain how they're feeling and coping day to day. And it is also a simple way to share with able-bodied people in our lives that what we have the capacity for. So basically, when someone with a chronic illness wakes up in the morning, they never know how they're going to feel.
Yep.
And this concept started by writer Christine Miserandino. She was with her friend at a diner, and she used spoons to describe chronic illness to her friend. So she, laid out a bunch of spoons with her friend. Okay. And she's like, each spoon represents a unit of energy. And energy for those of us with chronic illness depends on many factors. Stress levels, how we slept, pain. There's so many things that go into it. And each person has a finite amount of spoons every day. And once you use them, they're gone. So you might start the day with 12 spoons. But depending on how you feel that day, the spoons are used very differently. So on a really high pain day, something as simple as taking a shower and getting ready could take 4 of your 12 spoons.
That's a lot of spoons when you have the whole day ahead of you.
Exactly. But on a low pain day, that same task may only take 1 spoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those of us with chronic illnesses, we have to balance what we need to do each day based on the level of energy that we have. And once you use those spoons, you can't just replenish them. So some days you may use all of your spoons just going to work. And you might not have any left for the rest of the day.
Yep, been there.
Exactly. And this is really just a way to explain how you're feeling to loved ones who may not live with a chronic illness. And so this author, Christine Miserandino, she did not expect so many people to latch on to this theory when she conceptualized it and wrote about it on her site, But You Don't Look Sick. That's the name of her site, and I love it.
Okay, I love that so much.
Because it's true.
It's so true. How often do we say that?
Yes.
But do people say that to us, I mean.
Yes. Yeah. But until the spoon theory, there really was no other way of explaining the trials of chronic illness so simply and so effectively. So according to another article written by Healthline called I'm a Spoonie, Here's What I Wish More People Knew About Chronic Illness, this has been accepted across the world as an amazing tool to describe what life with illness is really like. So the spoon theory has done some great things since its inception, and one of which is providing a way for people to meet others dealing with illness. So like a quick search on social media will pull up hundreds of thousands of posts from people who identify as a spoonie. Mm-hmm. And so living life as a spoonie isn't always easy, and I know for me it definitely isn't. And I learned about the spoonie theory in 2019, and I've latched onto it because I had a hard time getting people to understand what I was going through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I want to do everything, anything, and sometimes my body, it just doesn't allow that. And a perfect example for me is Christmas Eve. So I did not sleep the night before Christmas Eve. I'm still kind of trying to bounce back from not having my heartburn medicine.
Yeah.
Plus, all of the hormones I'm injecting in my body for the IUI and everything, I'm just not at my best. So like, here's a situation where my spoons are precious. And I woke up early that morning. I used a couple spoons to go over to my mom's house and spend Christmas morning with you. And that's the hard thing too for people to understand. That was a very positive and happy experience for me, but it still took spoons for me.
Yeah.
And then I came home and I cooked for 4 hours.
A lot of hours for cooking.
That took a lot of my spoons. And then our whole entire family came over. And then after they left, it was like, you got to clean and you got to, and I remember sitting on the couch with Anthony that night and I was like, I've got nothing left to give. Like I was like tired on levels. And that's in that moment I said to myself, I'm like, I don't have any spoons left.
Yeah.
Like they're gone and I need to go to bed. And we did. We went to bed at like 9:30 on Christmas Eve because I
needed to recharge.
I ran out of them. And the hardest part for me is that my limited spoons sometimes means I have to miss out on things that I really want to be a part of. And those of us with chronic illness, we do carry a heavy burden of guilt, especially when we have to cancel things. And this helps us separate what we want to do versus what our illness dictates that we can do. And this article had a great quote in it that I wanted to highlight. And it said, for me, the spoon theory's highest value is that it allows me to understand myself. Our people often remind each other that we are not our diseases. And that's true. But the Spoonie ethos allows me to make that separation intellectually. If my body decides that we can't keep social plans, I know that's not me being flaky. There's no help for it. And that eases the heavy cultural burden to just gut it out or try harder. And me and you have talked about this before.
Yes, I love this. It's like we don't have to tell a lie to get out of doing something. We can just be real and say no, right?
And you can actually download a copy of Christine Miserandino's Spoon Theory, and I highly recommend you read it because the way she tells the story is beautiful and perfect. And we will be sure to link that along with the articles I referenced in our show notes. And we have actually reached out to her in hopes of bringing her on this podcast because I think she would be a wonderful, wonderful voice for our listeners to hear. And if you are listening to this and you don't have a chronic illness, but you love someone who does, this could be a good way to relate to them. Like ask them how their spoons are doing, especially if you notice them struggling. I know for me personally, I would rather someone say, how are you doing on spoons today versus, wow, you look tired or you aren't looking good. Because those statements tend to make me feel worse on top of how yucky I am already feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, like, be respectful if someone you love with a chronic illness says to you, I'm running really low on spoons today. I would like to blank, but I really don't know that I can. And like, I was like, oh, let me think of an example. And sometimes at night, my spoon, especially if I've worked all day, my spoons are so low, I have to say to Anthony, like, can you walk Rena? I know in my head, I'm like, I still have to do these 2 things and I only have 2 spoons left. If I walk Rena, those 2 spoons are going to be gone and I can't do the thing I need to do, which sometimes might be a shower.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Or sometimes it could be something as simple as like taking all of my medicine. If I'm having a bad esophagus day, that's going to take 2 spoons.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it's just a nice way to relate to people that you love that have a chronic illness. So now that you know about it, do you feel like you can relate to it?
I you know what? I absolutely can. I feel like essentially I say this to Sean all the time where I'm like, I can't go any further. Like, you got to do this, or I don't have it in me to. Yeah. So I'm using that language, but essentially it's how many spoons do I have left, right? Or left to give. And I love that analogy versus that language of like, I can't. Because honestly, sometimes we can't, and it's just easier to say, I don't have any spoons left. Can you take care of this for me? So,
yeah.
I love that.
You're a spoonie.
I'm a spoonie now. Welcome to the Spoonie Club.
All right. So that's all we have for you today.
Yes. And thank you for listening. We really, really appreciate any likes or follows and reviews wherever you listen to your podcast.
Yes. And you can find us at I've Got Guts Podcast on Instagram and Facebook.
Or you can email us at. Yes, at. I'm thinking the at and then the at sign.
No.
Not until the end, right before Gmail. I've got Guts Podcast at gmail.com.
That's right. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to everyone next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.